I'm Desmond Boateng, and this is SEO in 2025.
Desmond, what's your number one SEO tip for 2025?
My number one tip for SEO in 2025 is don't forget the human touch and the real credibility online.
So how do you know when to use the human touch and when to rely on AI and automation?
Yeah, so a good question. So what I'm seeing a lot is that a lot of content online is based on AI, but I can really understand because you can easily put out a lot of content. To answer your question, when to use AI, mostly I say like in the ideation phase, so in the pre-phase, and when to use human touch is when creating the content to really make it unique.
Okay, so you adapt the ideation that AI can give you. I guess the challenge with using AI in the ideation phase is what AI does is that bases its answers off content that already exists. So
Indeed.
how do you ensure that you craft something that's relatively unique? I mean, do you add that uniqueness afterwards when you've got the human touch?
Indeed. So what I do is at first, mostly what we start with is like getting the ideation, like, okay, hey, what is already written? Based on what's already written, we go in conversation, for example, with our clients, but also trying to get in contact with like different target audiences to see like, okay, hey, what are the needs that they have? And that can be like by having some conversations, like calling them, but can also be like sending an email. But lately, we also use a lot of forums. So think about, Reddit to find information, but it really depends on your target audience.
Got you. Okay. So I like that to use that as ideation before having a conversation with clients, because then clients can help to layer on top of that, maybe their first party data or information, and then create something very unique.
Indeed. And the reason therefore is also because if you say like, hey, client, we want to be better found on topic X, Y, and Z. Can you tell me all your insights about it? Sometimes you get a lot of very good input, but sometimes you can also get input that's less valuable because mostly we get a question, okay, but we know a lot about our product. Where do we need to start? And if you can use like AI to help them steer towards the right direction, and then based on that, we can do like a client layer, a research layer that will have more added value, in our opinion.
Well, that's certainly a great use of it. So is this something that you sit down with clients once a month or once a quarter? Do you have a regular meeting with them?
Yes, so we do it once a quarter, but it really depends also on the type of client, because some clients, for example, e-commerce clients that are more fast-pacing, we do it once a month. But let's say in general, it's like once a quarter that we look, okay, for the coming months, what are the topics that we're going to write about? But also the topic that we already have content about. Are we seeing some changes in the market? Based on that, to update your content. For example, for one of our clients, they're in the your money of your life sector. And what we did is like we asked them internally, all their medical specialists, to use the content that they receive from us. So we shared some questions with them, and when they are having like, let's say, consultations with their with their clients, to us after the meeting with their client to just write down the questions that they have, the issues that they have, so we could use it in our content strategy.
And what's your preferred AI tool to use for this research process? And do you have any preferred prompts that you can share?
My preferred AI tool to use is ChatGPT, but to be honest, we also combine it with like Surface SEO. I think a lot of SEO specialists use that, but that's more to see like, okay, what type of content is already ranking well. And so we also have created like some prompts to see like, okay, hey, where can we find, for example, for topic X, the most trending questions, and based on that, we get like a specific output. So let's say, okay, we have like a few prompts that we use internally. First, it always starts with like mapping out the target audience, the customer persona. So the customer persona, we do that based on like, okay, hey, first client input, but also our input. Then we put it together, and then in our prompt, it will say, okay, this is the potential content or the content that will be relevant for your potential customers during the customer journey. Because what you see is like a customer journey nowadays isn't linear. So we also don't look into, okay, hey, which content is relevant for like, okay, organic, but we also look into, okay, which content will be relevant for like advertising, but also for TikTok, but also for YouTube, but also from a visual perspective. And then you get like a lot of output. And then it's as consultants to see like, okay, which content are we going to use? Because indeed what you say, our prompts are still improving. But for us, to answer your question, most important is to get insight in like, okay, how does the customer journey looks like? What type of content is interesting for them? And then match it with actual first party data. Especially nowadays, the first party data is so important because what you said, like we can prompt a lot, but it won't give us anything new. Especially in a market as now, if you want to be seen, you have to be unique. Sometimes, also in our case, you can be very well found with AI content. We also tested on that, but then you have to look into from a user engagement perspective. How well is it going from a user engagement? And what we see is that if you compare like the AI content versus the personal content or the human touch content, the human touch content really outperforms the AI content from a user engagement perspective.
I liked the fact that you started off with asking AI for what are the trending questions on this particular topic. Where is it getting that information from, do you think?
That's a very good question. To be honest, I think they're getting it. They have like a lot of database. I think, and I hope, maybe there's more a hope than a think, that they're also getting it from different forums, fora, and in combination with all the web. So that's also the tricky thing. At same point, like it's getting it from existing content because it's not that they can come up with new stuff like what we can do it from a human touch perspective.
Okay, so that's a lot of use of AI in the research process, but I like the conversations that you have with clients as well as part of that. And what about in the actual creation of the content? Do you not use AI as part of that?
We use it to for the outlines, indeed. We use it for the outlines, but it's also more from an efficiency perspective to use it. And for example, what I mentioned, like there are different tools that you can use to make all your SEO outlines. And it really helps us from also again for ideation. And then based on that, based on all the input, we can sharpen the outlines. Because the fun thing is that that recently happened to us. We sent it like an outline to a client, and they were like, "Okay, this is something that really follows the structure when they're having a conversation with the potential client of them." But also, to be honest, in some cases, we also get like, "Okay, hey, AI created outlines without our input doesn't make sense."
So do you think that incorporating the human touch gives a positive difference, makes a positive difference to Google? Or is it quite tricky to measure?
That's something that I'm seeing a lot on LinkedIn. I believe that on a longer run, it will have a more positive impact with a human touch. But I'm seeing a lot of content doing well based on AI. So I would say like I don't have the data about this, but let's say 50-50 if I have to follow my gut feeling.
Okay. So it's probably more about user experience, user actions once they actually hit the page itself. So you can incorporate some AI content in what you produce as long as if the experience that you deliver is the same or hopefully better than what your competitors are doing.
Indeed. Especially when you can get people on your page and you can just give them a great experience, because AI doesn't mean like the experience. Like AI content isn't bad if you can prompt it good, because I always say like shit in is shit out. So
I thought it used to be garbage, but there we go. Maybe it's evolved.
oops,
But
oopsie. And so that I really believe in that. And so in some cases, if you're very well good with it, I believe you can really stand out with your content. But if you really want to stand out, it's like combining very well AI in combination with human touch.
So the funny thing is, talking about the human touch, you did use ChatGPT a little bit just to come up with some suggestions on how to enhance the human touch. A few suggestions include author pages. Why are they important?
Yeah, so for us, why are author pages important? For example, let's take a client in your money of your life business. When you're writing content about specific medical stuff or financial stuff, it's quite important to show your authority. And everybody can buy backlinks, but if you're really creating like an article and you're referring in that article towards the writer, so the author, and you can create like very good references, citations from, let's say, a very well-known magazine or a platform within your niche, and they're saying like, okay, hey, Desmond or person X is the best in his niche. Check his articles. That I think that's a very unique. I believe that will be also very impactful instead of only focusing on building authority on, yeah, let's say the articles or the category pages. But I also think like it's very important if you can build credibility on an author page.
And something else that ChatGPT mentioned was a benefit could be updating content with author insights. What do you think it meant by that?
Yes, that's a good one. That's something that we're also working on a lot. So updating our content with author insights, because it makes it more personal. Like, okay, let's say you can add on an author page, hey, Desmond has 12-year experience in SEO. That's okay. But for example, if you're writing an article about technical SEO and you can say like, hey, Desmond has done X, Y, and Z for client X, Y, and Z within technical SEO, and you can find it, for example, on our use case page or on an, let's say, a awards page. That's very powerful.
Got you. Okay. And another aspect that it highlighted is showcase your expertise. How do you go about doing that?
Showcase your expertise. So from an author perspective, what I would really do is like creating an author page, and mostly you can say like, okay, the author page, 9 of the times if you go to an author page, you will see the articles that has been written. That's also one step of showing your expertise. But I also believe in, let's take me as a SEO specialist as example. If you then go to my author page, and you see like, okay, the use cases that I've worked on. For example, I've like, let's say 5 cases. So you have the part with my articles, and then you have the part with the results. I think that is I think that will be a very added value.
If an SEO is struggling for time, what should they stop doing right now so they can spend more time thinking about the human touch in 2025?
I'm going to say something that I started in SEO as mostly in like doing a lot of link building. That's how I started in SEO. So I would say like buying low quality links. I would say please stop with that.
How would you define a low quality link?
Directories, but that's like directories, but also like PBNs. So the simple thing is sometimes when you go to a website and you can see it's like built for link building, it's like a blog network. But also if you're buying a link from a website and you're not getting any traffic, that says enough.
So any type of directory are you talking about there, or just generic directories that don't look as if they get many visitors?
Yes, the generic directories indeed, yeah.
Desmond Boateng is founder at Digital Base, and you can find him over at dgtlbase.com. Desmond, thanks so much for being part of SEO in 2025.
Thank you. It was a pleasure again.
I've been your host, David Bain. Get your copy of SEO in 2025, the book, over at SEOin2025.com.